broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing after shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hello, it's Always Sunny in Philadelphia fans. I'm your host, Danica Kennedy, and this episode, Frank retires. Thank you for joining us for another after show here at AFTERBUZZ TV, and be sure to check us out on iTunes. All you have to do is look up AFTERBUZZ TV. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. We have tons of other shows as well, so be sure to check us out, subscribe, rate, comment, find us on there, and you can find me on Twitter at Danica Kennedy. Thanks for tuning into the show. As you guys can see, my co-hosts are not here tonight. Mary Lou, Joe, and Mike, they're all very busy right now. Joe's on a comedy tour. They're all busy working in the industry, so gotta be proud of them. But just me tonight. Sorry, guys. Sorry, Dick Nips. But anyways, this show was ridiculous this week. There was a ton of blood, if you guys watched it. So first things first, the gang is looking at this really gross sinkhole in the bathroom, and they're having their normal disgusting banter, and Frank's just not into it. He doesn't feel any passion for the gross things they're talking about, and he's just like, I'm over this, I'm out of here. And he retires and he gives up his share of the bar, which I was immediately like, no, not Frank. He's one of my favorite characters, and if you guys are big fans of the show, I'm sure you've been watching it since season 1, and he isn't an original character. They added him on in the later seasons, and I think he brought a lot to the cast. Danny DeVito is such a talented actor, and I just love seeing him be so gross and crazy in this show where he's gurgling beer, and there's a lot of blood in this episode, as I was saying, and you know, I got all scared they were gonna like kick him off the show or write him off, but of course everything works out in the end if you watch the episode. Just another crazy thing the gang goes through, but they are all excited that he's quitting, and I'm like, no, not Frank. Of course, maybe you guys felt the same, maybe you didn't, but Frank owns 51% of the bar, and the three boys own 49%. So then they're trying to figure out the shares and who gets what. And immediately Charlie wants the bar. And everyone's like, Charlie, why do you think you should get it? Like, that doesn't even make sense. You don't even know how to read or write. Like, you're illiterate. Why should you be the owner of Paddy's Pub? But he starts arguing that it should go to someone who has Frank's blood, which also mean that Dee and Dennis, of course, could inherit the bar as well. So there's the team with the twins, and there's Charlie on his own team, and then Mac is just crazy this episode. He wants to be on both sides, and he's playing both sides, but he tells both sides that. He's like, hey, Charlie, I'm playing both sides, so I'm going to be on your side, and I'm going to cut my hand open, and we're going to do this handshake, and we're going to be blood brothers, and have an oath on it, and it's really disgusting. I actually had to turn away when it happened. Some good special makeup effects in this episode, that's for sure. But yeah, and then he did the same thing with Dee and Dennis later, but his hand was already cut open, so he's like taking the bandage off, and it's all gross, and he's trying to shake their hand again. It's pretty disgusting. But yeah, lots of blood going on. Frank isn't looking too well this episode. He starts getting his gray hair in. He's not dyeing it. He's trying to, you know, work out and make himself a better person since he's retiring from the bar, you know, trying to be healthy. He's getting older. And he keeps falling asleep with his eyes open. You know, most kids or friends would be very concerned about this, but of course they're like, oh, this is a great time to steal Frank's blood so we can see if Charlie is Frank's son and do the paternity test. So Charlie comes to Frank's house, or, well, they kind of live together in that gross apartment, but Frank falls asleep, wide awake, and Dee's like, is he dead? What's wrong with him? And I guess they just slice him open. They don't show how they cut him open. It kind of cuts to them coming out of the apartment with this grocery bag just filled with all this blood, and it's just leaking all over, and they don't know what to do with it. It's so disgusting, and they're like, oh, it's leaking in the bag, like, how are we gonna save it, and fighting over it. And then they end up dropping it, and it's just blood everywhere, and you're thinking, like, is Frank dead? Like, how did he lose that much blood? Like, how is he still alive? Because we don't know. As the audience, it just cuts to them outside, and they're gross. They're just like, we'll leave it here. We won't tell anyone about this. They don't even clean up the blood or anything. They just walk away from the situation. So that is the whole plan with Charlie going on. And Dee kind of agrees that Charlie should get the bar, and Charlie's kind of on Dee's side as well. Charlie's like, wait, so who was the firstborn child, you or Dennis? And she's like, what are you talking about? We're twins. And then Charlie's like, but the first one out of Barbara, who was it? And Dee's like, first is the worst. Mom used to always say that to me, first is the worst. And it makes so much sense now, so the bar should go to Dee. Meanwhile, Dennis has his own little plan going on, and his plan is absolutely ridiculous. He finds Frankito, which is this man that looks like Mexican Frank, a little bit taller, and he says that he is Frank's real son, which is believable. He looks just like him, from an affair that he had with the Mexican housemaid years ago when they were a kid. What really happened was Dennis found this guy at like a Wabba Wabba, some restaurant, and was like, oh my gosh, this looks just like Frank. I need to come up with this whole plan, like years before. And it's kind of heartfelt in the end, because the whole plan was to get the gang back together. And Frank is losing all this blood the whole time, and he keeps showing up looking sicker and sicker. He's so pale white in the end. You think he's about to die. He's like a ghost. And throughout the whole thing, Dee is scheming and has this plot voice, and I love when Dee has her different accents that she throws in. They're always over the top and ridiculous, and they're so hilarious. But yeah, she has her little scheming voice, and everyone's like, why are you talking that way? I know you're scheming because you're telling me the plan. You don't have to like use that weird voice. What's wrong with you? But they all had these over-the-top plans. So Charlie's over there trying to get the blood. Dee's like, I'm first out of the womb. And then Dennis has Frankito, this whole fake plot going around, and they're all fighting over the shares, but not even for the pub, really. They want this disgusting throne, which is Frank's really smelly office chair that smells like his ass and his farts, and everyone sits on it, and it smells like butt, and I don't even know why they're fighting over it, because the whole episode they talk about how horrible the chair is, but they all want to be empowered and be on the throne at Paddy's pub. But once the blood is drained out of Frank and the rest of the team, everyone's cutting their hands this episode, making oaths and promises and gutting Frank up, even though we're not seeing it. But even like hiding in Frank's apartment when Dee and Charlie took his blood. So he took some blood for himself just in case he needs it in the future. Quite a lot. So he lost a lot of blood that day. But, he comes back in a wheelchair, and he's all white, and he's like, I decided to unretire, basically, as soon as I felt unwanted. I felt like the blood was draining out of me, which he didn't know, because I guess he was asleep. Pretty obvious that it happened, though. He was ghostly white. But it was a pretty crazy episode. But I was very excited. It was just kind of a one-episode thing, because in the beginning, I kind of thought that they were going to, like, write Frank off or something, because next week is the season finale, which, by the way, I can't believe it's over so soon. Luckily, there's 2 more seasons after this, but I was really happy that they didn't actually get rid of him. They keep psyching us out that way. I'm also curious about the whole situation that we kind of, I feel like, breezed over and they never talked about again when Charlie and Dee slept together. I actually wasn't here that week when we talked about it, and we never got to talk about it really later because it never comes up again in the later episodes. And I'm like, that is such a huge plot twist and like a crazy thing they decided to do writing-wise all of a sudden, and they just never addressed it again. But in a way, that's kind of like them to just move on, have them be a little slutty and crazy all of a sudden. What do you guys think? Just let me know on Twitter, and you can let us know at AFTERBUZZ TV on Twitter as well and on Instagram. So please let us know what you think of the show. We will be here next week, and we'll have Sandy Martin in the studio, aka Mac's mom. I'm so excited to have her here. She is going to be hilarious. And since the season's wrapping up, we only have next week as our season finale, but I will have Gregory, aka Mac's dad, come in for a Spotlight On interview soon. So I'll keep you posted. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.